right, so welcome to my kitchen that I call the Wellness Kitchen. If you haven't been to these classes before, my name's Megan. I am a registered dietitian and manager at St. Jude Wellness Center. I try and do these cooking classes kind of in a combination with a theme of a webinar that we've done fairly recently. So the last webinar we've done, which is also posted in our recordings on the website, was on meal prep and meal planning. We kind of went through the template of meal themes and how to think ahead and make it easy for yourself to meal plan. So we're going to be, oh, don't listen to that. That's the oven getting ready for us. We're going to be doing some recipes that I really like for meal planning ahead. Some of them are great because they make several servings at once. Some of them are great because you can use a bunch of other things that you've made from past recipes and put them together into a dish. So you'll see what I mean as we go. We're going to do 4 different recipes / 5 because I'm just going to kind of tell you how I did one of the things in the Instant Pot. We're not actually going to cook that. And some of them are breakfast, some are snack, and some are meals. So let's get going. The first thing we're going to do, because we have to put it in the oven while we do everything else, is we're going to make muffin bites. Now, some people call these scones, some people call them bread bites, because we're going to bake them kind of like in a muffin type of tin. They're not exactly muffins, but just hang with me on it. Blueberry sausage is the flavor profile. So I really, really like these because they're a little bit savory. A lot of times when we're baking bread type items, they're always sweet. And that can get us into habits of always needing something sweet in the morning. And then when I didn't have time to meal plan, I really want something sweet. So I'm just going to drive by Starbucks and get some, blueberry muffins instead. So I like the addition here of the sausage simply from creating a bit more of a savory profile. Also, we add more protein in. These are going to be fairly low carb, not keto, but lower on the glycemic scale. And let's do it. So we're going to use chickpea flour. You can use almond flour as well. And I have almond flour, but I really like using chickpea flour. This one, the lighting is making that weird, but garbanzo bean flour and chickpea flour are the same thing. Okay, so it just depends on what brand you're buying, whether it says chickpea or garbanzo bean flour. I've seen them at Sprouts, I've seen it at Mother's, I've seen it at Whole Foods. I happen to have a subscription to Thrive Market where I just kind of have everything on regular order and I can get it there for a little bit cheaper than in a regular store. The reason I like chickpea flour or garbanzo bean flour is it's high in protein and it's high in fiber compared to your other gluten-free alternative flours. So this one, per serving of 1/4 cup, we're getting 3 grams of fiber, only 13 grams of carb, and 5 grams of protein. So typically when you're looking at like a gluten-free, non-flour baked dish, usually people are using almond flour because it's really accessible. But almond flour is kind of like a nothing flour. It doesn't really give anything, which in some cases is great. There's not a lot really. I think there's 1 gram of protein, 1 gram of fiber. It's sort of a nothing food. Which is fine, but if you're looking for this dish to maybe be your breakfast on the way out the door, we want to get a little bit more protein, a little bit more fiber, and we can do that from this flour. So we're going to use 1 1/3 cup of flour, chickpea flour. Again, you can definitely use almond flour. This recipe is not a straight swap with regular flour because regular flour has gluten in it, which will make it rise differently. So if you're going to not use chickpea flour, you want to make sure you're using a flour that does not have gluten, some sort of seed or bean flour that won't rise. Otherwise, you'll get kind of a funky texture. All right, 1 1/3 cup there. We need some sort of starch since that is gluten-free. We need something to bind it together. And that's where we're going to use arrowroot. You could use cornstarch, you could use tapioca starch, any starch that you find works for your health. I like tapioca because it's very unprocessed in the world of processed starches. And we're going to do 1/4 cup there. So I'm just sort of going to eyeball it because my 1/4 cup went missing. My 2-year-old has been play cooking in his kitchen and I now can't find my 1/4 cup measuring cup anymore. So I'm going to eyeball that one. All right, we're going to do 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda. And we're just going to whisk that up. Now we add our wet ingredients. We're going to do an oil. You could do olive oil, you could do melted butter, melted ghee. Again, you're choosing per your health needs, right? So a melted oil and melted fat is all that's required here. And then remembering back to our meal themes and choosing what works for your body. If you are someone who's on a very strict paleo and or keto diet, you're going to want to go in the coconut oil and or melted ghee direction. If you're someone who is at cardiac risk and you're trying to go lower in saturated fat, you could do an olive oil here. I'm going to use coconut oil just because I kind of like the flavor profile. It is a little higher in saturated fat, but if you remember from past webinars I've done, got to turn it around so I can read the cups here. The medium chain triglycerides of your coconut oil fat are well used by the brain. So it's not quite as hazardous to our blood health as animal saturated fats because it's really highly utilized. It's not stored as quickly. So I'm less worried about the saturated fats in coconut oil than I am in, like steak. All right, 1/4 cup of that, and you want it to be melted. And then some sort of liquid sweetener. Again, pick your sweetener based on your needs. I like lower glycemic sweeteners like coconut nectar, date syrup. I found this recently that I've been pretty into, Madhava agave 5. So it's a mix of agave and monk fruit. I found it at Mother's Market. I've never seen it before, so I tried it and I like it. It's just a very mild sweetness, but I've done this before with maple syrup. I've done it before with date syrup. All work great. And another 1/4 cup. What I also like about this particular sweetener is it's very thin. It's not very thick and sticky, so it makes it really easy to blend things. We're also going to do an egg. As usual, I'm using a pasture-raised egg because that is going to give me less saturated fat and more vitamin D and omegas. And I'm going to just whisk that up a little bit. Oh, I forgot vanilla. Well, instead of making you wait for me to go in the pantry, usually I would add a little bit of vanilla here, but that's okay. And we're just going to add that into our dry ingredients. Whisk away. And once you've made this before, once you make it once, you can kind of decide if you like other flavors. So I like to add a little bit of cinnamon just to give it a little bit of extra potency, but you could also go in a bit more of a savory direction and add like some thyme or some rosemary. That would be really good. I'm going to add a little bit of sea salt here too. And just mix until well blended. And it's going to be a little thick, kind of like if you were making a muffin batter, where it's a little bit thicker than a cake batter. Just mix. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is just fold in our fruit and our sausage. So I want to talk about the sausage here. You want to make sure when you're using, sausage is a processed meat, right? So is bacon. Now, they don't have to be as hazardous to your health if you choose a good quality one. So if you use a pasture-raised sausage or grass-fed, then you're going to have a better quality meat. Then if on top of that, you read the ingredients for no or very little added sugar and no other stuff, no nitrates and added salt preservatives, colorings, more fat. You don't need more fat added into a sausage and bacon. They're fat enough as they are. Then that can be a really good source of flavor and protein in small amounts. It's not something I would recommend having every single day, sausage and bacon. But for instance, I have these little, they're the Applegate Farms little mini breakfast sausages. I get them in the freezer section and they have a couple of different flavors. I get the one with no added sugar and it's just pasture raised meat. Everything from Applegate Farms is pasture raised and grass fed. And I believe it's salt and then various herbs. And that's all it is in that sausage. So it's still going to be a higher saturated fat than, let's say, chicken or fish, but it's a really good source of protein that I can have every once in a while. And I'm only using 4 of those sausage links cut up into this whole batch. Okay, so the recipe itself calls for a cup of cooked lean sausage chopped up. And I am putting in there in parentheses that I use 4 Applegate Farms breakfast sausages and chop them up. So you could also, if you have a good quality, just ground breakfast sausage, you could use that too. You can also just skip that. If you're vegetarian or you don't have a good quality sausage, a sausage accessible to you, just add the fruit and make it less savory and more of a fruit type of scone here. All right, mix this in. And then we add our blueberries. So you're going to add about a cup of fresh or frozen blueberries. Note that if you use frozen, it's going to kind of seep more into the batter and it'll be bluish, more blue looking. That's the only difference. And you can just eyeball all of this. You could use any berry you want, or you could do diced apple if you don't want to do berries. There's a lot of wiggle room in your flavor profile of this. All right, so it's very thick. You're getting an arm workout here, and you're gonna get your cake batter, round cake pan, not cake batter, round cake pan, and just grease it a little bit with that coconut oil that you already have out, or oh, that was a lot of oil. Scoop some of that out. We don't need quite that much. Yo. And you just scoop it in. Ugh, it is very sticky. This recipe also doubles very, very easily. So you could do 2 at a time, or if you make them once and you kind of feel like you would like it to be thicker, like a bigger muffin bite type of thing, just double it up. Because it doesn't rise much, remember, because there's no gluten. So you have room for that. And you just sort of press it in. Might have to get a little messy here. And my cake pan is a little big, so I often don't fill it all the way to the rim. If you have like a regular size cake pan, mine's excessively large. I don't know why. If you have a regular size cake pan, it'll do just fine. And if it doesn't go all the way to the rim, it's not a big deal. It doesn't have to be this perfect circle because I'm going to show you how we are going to cut it once it bakes. But it doesn't have to be very thick. Just kind of press it and make sure it's all stuck together. You could put this into muffin tins as well and make them into tiny little muffins. You're just going to bake it a slightly shorter amount of time if you do it that way. All right. I have my oven set to 350, and we're going to pop it in there for 30 minutes. And there you go. So that'll be done by the time we're all finished talking, but eventually what we're going to do is just use a cookie cutter and cut out small little bites. So that's it. So it's really, really easy, and it makes, depending on the size of your cookie cutter, you can get anywhere from 8 little rounds to potentially up to 16 if you're just using tiny ones. So again, it's slightly easier to make it that way than to put it into individual muffin tins and cook a little less, and then you have to wash the whole muffin tin, which I personally hate washing muffin tins because there's so many spots to have to wash. So I like this one a little bit better. So while that cooks, let's get some of this stuff out of our way here. We are going to make something else also that you could use for breakfast. We're going to make an English muffin. Now this one is just a 1 serving, although I'm going to show you how you could just kind of like make a bunch at one time. But I love these because they're so easy to make real quick, and then you have an English muffin that is full of really good ingredients, and this one is keto friendly. So if you are really low carb, or maybe you're wanting to have higher carb toppings on your English muffin, you love jelly and sweetened peanut butter, or you want to do some sort of like whipped cream or sweetened cream cheese with strawberry type of thing. Like you have more wiggle room for more carbs with your English muffin if your English muffin is lower carb. So it doesn't always mean you have to eat keto. to use a keto recipe. Sometimes it just sort of opens you up to still have a lower version of carbohydrate in that total meal, because something that is usually higher carb is lower carb, if that makes sense. So this one's super, super easy. Again, we're going to use an oil. We're going to do 1 tablespoon of any melted oil you like. I'm using coconut only because I happen to have it out right now, but usually for this recipe, I just pour in a little olive oil because it's just really easy. You, again, could use melted butter, melted ghee, but what you want to do is make sure it just covers that bottom and the sides of a ramekin. You could also do this in a mug if you wanted to. Again, I used a little too much. And sometimes on the weekends when I'm doing this for my whole family, guess what? I just put out 4 ramekins and I do boom, 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 boom. And I'm just doing like an assembly line of this. And these will store really well in your refrigerator for 3 to 5 days. So let's say, you know, this is what I want to have for breakfast all 5 days. You could do that too. You could make all 5 of them in 5 separate ramekins, have them in the fridge and just toast them up all week long. So you can easily just kind of replace this, but I'm just doing 1 right now. We're going to do 3 tablespoons of almond flour. That's what makes this super low carb. You could use chickpea flour, and that way you get more fiber and more protein, but you're also going to get slightly more carbohydrate, which kind of throws things off a little bit in the keto world, but it's still really low carb, even if you use chickpea flour. 3 tablespoons there. Almond flour, just plain old almond flour. We're going to do another egg. So here's our protein, here's our omega-3s, here's some B vitamins and choline, vitamin D, which is hard to come by in food. We're going to do, again, some baking powder, little half teaspoon here. Sea salt, and then whatever other seasonings you want, and that's literally it. So sometimes I'll do like Italian herbs, sometimes I'll do some garlic powder, sometimes I just make it plain and I just stir it up just like this as is. You could make it sweet. Maybe you love cinnamon raisin English muffins. Add a little bit of cinnamon, a tiny little splash of your agave or your monk fruit or whatever sweetener you have, and some raisins, and add that. Now that's going to, again, make it non-keto more than likely because you're adding some sugar carb there, but it's still a pretty low carb bread type of breakfast. And you just whisk this sucker up. Now, it does get a little clumpy, so you want to make sure there's no clumps, and then you want to go through and kind of just like make sure none of it is all stuck up on the side. Okay. Grab a paper towel so it doesn't explode, and we're going to put it in the microwave for 90 seconds. See how easy that is? If you Google 90-second keto bread, you're going to find all types of variations of this recipe with different flavorings. Some people use different types of flours. Some people use some very specific kind of like keto type of ingredients if they're following a very strict keto diet. But again, I just want to reinforce, you can eat keto recipes and not be following a keto diet. I love using keto recipes to just open up my carb allowance a little bit more. My favorite way to use this recipe is actually as like a smoked salmon type of dish. So I put some mascarpone cheese on it, smoked salmon, dill, and capers, and it just feels like the most special breakfast, like I'm at a fancy cafe and I'm just in my house before work kind of thing. So it's really, really filling, which is also nice. And I am looking at questions since we're waiting on the microwave. Oh, yeah, I'll be sending out the recipes as well. So just when I send this out, if you are worried about carb count here, there's only 4 grams of carb and 8 grams of protein, 3 grams of fiber in this particular recipe. So I really like that. We're going to wait 20 seconds for this one before we move on to our next dish. I'm just going to move this stuff out of the way. Move the blueberries. Okay. Now be careful when you get it out of the microwave because it'll be super, super hot. So make sure you, because I've done this before, I reach in and then it's super hot. So we're gonna get our knife and just kind of work your way around. Now, first, before you do anything, you want to give it a jiggle, because if it still looks like there's a slightly raw bit of egg in the middle, give it another 30 seconds. Sometimes, depending on your microwave, it'll need that. Now mine's done. I'm going to show you the top of it before I scoop it out. So that it kind of looks like a little egg souffle, right? And if I jiggle it, there's nothing raw in there. We get a plate. And you just sort of dump it out. Ooh, that's a hot dish. So it's, depending on how well you greased your dish and the shape of your ramekin, it's not the world's most perfect looking English muffin in the world. But you see how it looks like an English muffin. So I'm going to wait for this to cool a little bit because it's super hot. And then I'm just going to slice it and toast it. And so this is where you can save it. If you make 5 of them, wait for them to cool, wrap them up in saran wrap or put them in a Tupperware, put them in the fridge. Then come Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, you slice it, toast it, top it with what you want to. Okay? That is so crazy, crazy easy. Let's see. Yeah. Let me see if I can cut it without burning myself, just so you can see. So it's a little spongy. Keep in mind, right, that any alternative recipe is not going to be the exact copycat. It's not going to be exactly a regular English muffin because it's not made of exactly the same ingredients as a regular English muffin. This is an alternative. But this is pretty darn close, right? There's our English muffin. Just needs a quick toast. I'll probably have part of this with my lunch today and just put some avocado on top, and it's like an open-faced sandwich. It doesn't have to be breakfast. I've done this before for a snack where I'll toast half of it and put cottage cheese and tomatoes on top, and it's a wonderful afternoon snack. Again, very, very filling, tastes like bread without having the bread. So great for if you're not only low carb, but maybe you're gluten-free, can be a really nice substance for that. Okay, so there's our English muffin. Moving on. Okay. I want to, the recipes all got mixed up. I'm not going to show you this one in full force because we're not going to cook a chicken together, but I want to just kind of walk you through how easy it is to cook an entire chicken because we're talking about meal prep. So typically, I will get my entire chicken, and I get mine delivered from Butcher Box because they do pasture-raised chickens. And if you have an Instant Pot, you take your trivet, this guy, and you put it in, and you add a cup of water. That's it. You put your chicken in, make sure there's nothing on the inside, no giblets or anything like that. Pour a little lemon juice and herbs on top. Put it in your Instant Pot and set it for 22 to 28 minutes, depending on how big or small your chicken is. When that chicken is done, you're going to let it slowly release. And I am sending you this recipe, by the way. You don't have to take notes. I'm just not showing it to you because it's silly to watch me cook a 20-minute chicken. When that's done, you let it slowly release. You shred that baby up. And you have an entire bucket of shredded chicken. I did this exact same process 2 days ago on my Sunday meal prep day. And I have all this shredded chicken, and we had some chicken last night for dinner, so it's actually missing some. This was like full to the brim. So what do I do for this throughout my week? I add it to wraps. I put it in sandwiches. Sometimes I'll just have a charcuterie lunch. My kids love that with like just some crackers, cheese, shredded chicken, hummus, and vegetables. I can add this into a casserole or a pasta. Maybe I'm making spaghetti or some type of pasta dish, and it's not enough protein for my needs. Throw in some shredded chicken. You can freeze it. I do that a lot where I'll use half of it for meals for the week. I'll freeze the other half, and then I have shredded, already cooked chicken ready for me in 2 weeks when I didn't have time to meal prep the protein. What we're going to eat in my house tonight with this is a very simple taco bowl, and we're going to make the slaw for that right now. And this one I'm not sending you a recipe for because it's so easy, it's silly to write it down. This is what I'm doing. I have shredded purple cabbage and cilantro in a bowl. I bought it pre-shredded. I didn't do anything with this cabbage. I just bought a bag of shredded purple cabbage, and I bought a thing of cilantro, and I tore it all up and threw it in. That's what's in this bowl. I also bought this. If you like avocado, I highly recommend it. It's the Primal Kitchen's avocado lime sauce. I think it's called sauce, dipping sauce. I got this on Thrive. They also carry it at all the grocery stores that carry Primal Kitchen. So Sprouts is starting to carry it. They have 3 or 4 different flavors of sauces now. They're delicious. Could you make your own sauce? You bet you could. Do you have time always? I don't. So I really like having these on hand for days where I literally need to dump some things in a bowl and get dinner on the table, right? So this is kind of a guacamole-esque flavor, but let me read you the ingredients, why I like this brand so much. Avocado oil, water, apple cider vinegar, egg yolk, vinegar, mushroom extract, sea salt, avocado pulp, lime juice, onion powder, garlic powder, nutritional yeast, spinach for color, salt, chives, parsley, dill, black pepper, rosemary, lime. Pretty awesome for a bottled dressing sauce. And because cabbage is such a hearty, fibrous vegetable, it's really, really great because you can pre-toss it with whatever sauce you want. So we're having this for dinner tonight, but I'm going to toss this up now so that it's a little bit softened and just not quite so hard and dense and crunchy. You could honestly make your slaw the day before if you wanted to. If you wanted to prep this right now for tomorrow, your slaw would still be fine. It wouldn't be soggy. I love slaws for that reason. So if I were to home make this sauce, I'd probably mash up some avocado with lime juice and olive oil and maybe taco seasoning. So it's still pretty easy to make your own, but again, like, wow, 3 ingredients and I've got a side dish. And just make sure it's all nice and covered and tossed together. There's my dish. There's my meal prep. So what am I going to do tonight? I'm going to serve this with some little corn tortillas and some shredded chicken. And I'm going to top them all with some pepitas, and we are going to be done with dinner. That is dinner tonight. This is already totally prepped because I instant potted this over the weekend. I prepped this up just now in 2 minutes, and I have a topping and I have some corn tortillas in the refrigerator. So you could also make a bowl out of it. Let's say you don't want corn tortillas. You want to put it on some quinoa or some rice. Maybe you want to make it more like a casserole. You could do it on nachos with some melted cheese. There's a lot of variations if you're having taco night, right? That's our theme for our meal prep. All these 4 ingredients can do a lot within that theme. So just kind of giving you ideas on how you can work with some easy meal prep, use the same ingredients in a lot of ways, but also use your theme in a lot of ways. All right, well, my dinner's done. All right, we're gonna do one more recipe. Let me get some of this stuff out of our way. All right, this recipe, don't let it scare you. It's gonna look like it's a lot of ingredients. It's not. It's just, I wanted to show you how you can make a dish really easily by putting things together. Okay, so let's get our ingredients out. Ooh, don't spill it. Okay, I know, it's a lot of ingredients, but it's very modifiable. Just hang with me here. So we're going to make a salad. It's a Cobb / Noise. How do I say that? Nicoise salad. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? Nicoise. I don't know how to say that, but it's a combination of those 2 salads that I make all the time, and that I switch the ingredients out, and I pretty much just use whatever leftovers I happen to have around. So our base is greens. Use whatever greens you want. I have a butter leaf lettuce and arugula mixture from Trader Joe's bags here on my plate. Then we're going to do our raw vegetables. So as we build a meal salad, there's some things we want to include. We want to include some raw. We want to include some cooked vegetables. So you're getting that texture combination. That doesn't really have to do anything with nutrition. It's just what makes for a really satisfying meal salad versus just a side salad. So my raw vegetables that I have already chopped up are some raw cucumbers and some raw tomatoes. Okay. Is there a difference between raw and cooked vegetable nutrition? Yes, definitely. When you cook vegetables, you tend to get rid of some of the water-soluble nutrients like the vitamin C, but you often activate some of the other types of nutrients like antioxidants and like flavin, why can't I think of the name of it? Lycopene in tomatoes is activated when it's cooked. So I'm not getting a lot of lycopene from these raw tomatoes, but I'm getting a ton of vitamin C. And if I flip-flop that and cooked it into a sauce, let's say with my pasta and my cooked chicken, I would then get less vitamin C, but more lycopene. Okay, so there's always a trade-off. Now I'm gonna have some cooked vegetables. I have some steamed green beans here, which is a very typical ingredient in your noise salad, in the soy salad. I had these for our family dinner 2 nights ago. We had some chicken breast, and wait, we didn't have chicken breast. We had salmon. Chicken is what I shredded up. We had salmon with green beans and potatoes. Anytime I have leftovers of anything, I save it in a jar. So this is not a ton of green beans left over, but they're steamed, they're ready to eat. Even if there's a tiny bit, you can build a salad like this. And or think ahead. If you know, I want salads for my lunch all week this week, and I want to kind of build it this way, make a double batch of green beans. You have some for dinner, and now you're already set for your lunches for the week. And you can have 5 Tupperware containers ready to go for work and just be divvying it up like an assembly line. So I'm gonna have my steamed green beans. And you could swap this out. This could be roasted leftover broccoli. This could be roasted carrots or steamed carrots, like whatever you have. I really love cooked fennel. This is something that I do as part of my meal prep almost every week, because I get 1 or 2 fennel bulbs, I slice them up, I toss them with some olive oil, and I roast them at 375 for 20 to 25 minutes. And I just put them in things. I put them in my salad. I'll put it in a pasta dish just to add some extra allium, because alliums are really good for our immune system, but they just taste good too. So you could do roasted or sauteed onion or shallot. I love fennel. I think it tastes delicious. Toss that in. Now we're going to add a little bit of carbohydrate. We're going to add some potatoes. Again, kind of a typical ingredient in your noise salad. Sometimes you see them in a Cobb salad. It was something that was part of our dinner 2 nights ago. And so I just made extra, knowing I could throw them into my salads this week. So these are roasted red potatoes. Potatoes are a really good source of fibrous starch. And if you pre-cook them a little bit, if you parboil them first and then roast them, you actually convert that fiber into being a lower glycemic fiber. So that's kind of a cool trick. It's an extra step when you're meal prepping, but if you're really looking at your carb intake, that can be helpful to parboil them first. All right, so I've got my vegetables. I've got a ton of fiber here, right? We've talked about like what our plate should look like. This plate is full of fiber. And you see my potato section? My little quarter of the plate, that's my starch. So it's mostly fiber with a little starch, but now we're missing some stuff, right? We're missing some fat, we're missing some protein. So for my protein, I'm going to do a shrimp because, again, we had shrimp for dinner. We had salmon and then we had shrimp. We had a very pescatarian week. But I had like 4 or 5 little shrimps left over. These are wild shrimp that I cooked in a Cajun seasoning. I love a little bit of shrimp in my salad. Oftentimes, I will use canned salmon if I don't have a leftover fish, because canned salmon is so easy to get. You could also use some of that shredded chicken that you have in the other container. You could also up the other sources of protein I'm going to show you, because I only have 4 shrimps here. That's not very much protein. So I'm also going to do a hard-boiled egg. Very Cobb of me, right? So I'm just putting together themes of salads that I like. I really like Cobb salads. I always have. I really like that kind of egg density. It makes me feel more full. So how can I put together some of those favorite things in my salads to be healthier for me? Before I leave the topic of hard-boiled eggs, while we're discussing meal prep, hard-boiled eggs in your Instant Pot. Takes 5 minutes. So you put 10 to 12 eggs on top of that trivet with a cup of water, set your Instant Pot for 5 minutes. And then instead of a natural release, you're going to quick release it, take it out, put it in an ice bath. They are the perfect hard-boiled eggs, and I put them in this little container in my fridge I have breakfast, snacks, lunch proteins at the ready all week long. And it took me 5 minutes, and it wasn't 5 minutes of active cook time. It was time that I could walk away from my cooking. So that's another good tip. Now, most cobs have bacon, right? And I do love bacon. It's not super good for us, but I do love the flavor of it, and it's just so darn satisfying. So again, what's the best possible bacon I can find? Just like my sausages. Can I find pasture-raised bacon? Yes, you can. You're probably going to pay $1 or $2 more for it, but you sure can. You're also going to want to read those ingredients. No added sugars, no added oils, no nitrates or things you can't pronounce. If it's just meat and salt, that's what we're looking for. So I made some bacon for our breakfast over the weekend this past weekend. We each got 2 pieces, and I made an extra 2 pieces that I could just cut up a little bit to add that flavor profile and that crunch to my salad. It's not much. We're talking like a half a piece of bacon here. But it does add a lot of satiety and just enjoyment of my overall salad. So I've got all my toppings. Look at that amazing lunch salad I've got so far. I'm going to make my dressing. And this was all stuff that I had prepped ahead of time, right? This was a really fast assembly because this was just stuff that I already had made. So you can meal prep in any direction. You can use your leftovers and make extra ahead of time, or you can make a bunch knowing you're going to want, all these meals. So let me make my dressing real quick. We're going to do olive oil. For my dressings, I like a 1-to-2 ratio of, I'm gonna actually double this recipe since we're talking about meal prep, because I know I'm gonna eat this for tomorrow too. I like a 1-to-2 ratio of 1 oil to vinegar. I just like my dressings a little bit more vinegary, but you could do a 1-to-1 also. So for 1 serving, I would do a tablespoon of olive oil and 2 of vinegar. I'm like doubling that since I know I'm gonna use it tomorrow. Red wine vinegar. I have a homemade strawberry vinegar just because I was messing around with strawberries a few weeks ago, but usually I would use red wine vinegar. Lemon juice. We want it to be a little bit lemony. And I usually do as much lemon juice as I do oil. So 1-to-1 on the oil to lemon to 2 to vinegar. Okay. Then you add your Dijon mustard. I love Dijon mustard. So most recipes call for like 1 teaspoon. I usually add maybe a full tablespoon. I really like that flavor. So you can do that in your dressings. You mess with it. A little garlic powder. And some salt. It smells so good in here with that sausage scone muffin bite thing in the oven. Oh man. And you just shake. And when you're ready to eat, pour it over the top, add pepitas, add feta cheese or blue cheese. You're just adding that little bit of extra on top, and you've got your fully complete salad that, again, you can divvy into Tupperwares too, and will do really well as long as you don't toss it with your dressing. So you can make this whole salad ahead of time, have it in a Tupperware, toss it when you're ready to eat. Okay. What you could do, because I'm all about making things easy, if you just don't even have time to make that dressing, you're like, nope, it's too much effort. I need to have something in a bottle. Ta-da! My favorite little dressing. I should make commission off of them. The Primal Kitchen, yet again. They have a honey mustard dressing using avocado oil instead of seed oil, no sugar. It's delicious. And I pretty much always have this in my kitchen because, again, I'm a Dijon mustard dressing kind of girl. So there we have it. Where are we on time? So we have 4 minutes on our little scone guy. Let me just check it. Yeah, it's going to need that 4 minutes. So why don't I answer questions while we wait for that? The other thing before I answer questions that I'm going to send you some recipes that I didn't think you really wanted to sit here and watch me make, but I will send you the recipe is for prep ahead smoothie bags. So you literally just add all the ingredients except for the liquid of your smoothie into Ziploc bags. So it's kind of, like I said, boring to watch because you're just putting things into Ziploc bags, but you could take maybe your favorite smoothie recipe that has fruits and vegetables, times it by 5, and divvy it up into Ziploc bags and put them in your freezer so that when you're ready for your protein smoothie in the morning, you're just dumping that into a blender and adding your liquid and going, rather than pulling everything out. Where's my spinach? Where's my fruit? Where's my protein powder? It's all in a bag. So that can be another nice meal prep idea, and I'll send you the recipe with some combinations. So let's see what's going on in the questions. We talked about the recipes. If you didn't actually register, just either email me or put your email in the chat box so that I can send you the recipes. The recipes will also be in the caption of the recording. So if for whatever reason I don't have your email and you don't get it from me, just know that it will be linked when I put the recording up. Oh, awesome. I'm getting some just private messages of very awesome health success and cooking success. I'm so proud of that. That is so cool. And that's when you have successes in the kitchen, you should be so proud of that, because it is a skill. And I think that's something we don't always remember. We just get frustrated when something doesn't turn out right, or we don't know how to make a recipe, but it's a skill. Just like whatever job you have is your skill. This is mine. So I think a lot of people are like, oh, Megan's good in the kitchen. Well, I've worked on this for a very long time. So keep practicing and show me what you make when you have a success, and show me when you have a failure, because maybe we can work on it. Suggestion for how to cook chicken. Oh, for those without an Instant Pot. Nancy, thank you for reminding me, because I was going to say that you can also make a whole chicken in your crock pot. And you just do the same thing, but you're going to set it on low for 6 hours. I'll double check that before I send you guys the recipe, but you set it on low for 6 hours instead of the Instant Pot for 20 minutes. I like the Instant Pot because it's so fast. You can also do it in a big pot of water, but that takes a while. That takes like 8 hours of simmering. So I prefer either the crock pot or the Instant Pot for that reason. And best alternative if you don't have butcher box. So you can find pasture raised whole chicken in stores. You're usually going to find that at places like Mother's and Whole Foods. Sometimes Sprouts will have it. I've never seen a whole pasture raised chicken at Trader Joe's, but they do have pasture raised breasts. So kind of every store you go to is going to have some grass-fed and pasture-raised options. It's just that they're all going to have different cuts and different options. For instance, Trader Joe's has grass-fed lamb, and I can't find grass-fed lamb anywhere else. So it's just kind of, you have to kind of figure that out. If you cannot find pasture-raised chicken where your store is, then the next best option is an organic free range. Because then free range and cage free are almost the same thing, but technically free range, the chicken is supposed to be out for a certain amount of time from the hen house, versus cage free simply means that the door is open. It doesn't mean that they actually get out. So free range is better. Doesn't always give as much health benefits as a pasture raised chicken, but that's definitely like the next best option. Seeing emails. Okay. Gotcha. I'm getting your emails. All right. Any other questions before I go look at our little bites here in the oven? Okie dokie. Let's go see how they're looking. 15 seconds left. Oh yeah, they're ready. Turn off. Okay. Ta-da! Almost looks like a crumble, doesn't it? It's not, but it's so pretty. It's a really pretty looking dish because you get the blueberries in there, but it's very hard and dense. Like if you were to make a scone, it's not quite that fluffiness of a muffin. Now, usually I let it cool a little bit before doing this, so we'll see how it goes. In addition to my quarter cup measuring cup, what I have also seemed to have lost with my children is my round cookie cutter. I only have a huge one, but I'm gonna use this. So I have these little like Japanese teacups, and it's almost the perfect little round size, and this works great too. So get creative. You can use a glass, like a drinking glass if you want to. You can use a cookie cutter that's not round. You can make little star-shaped bites, whatever you want to do. I'm going to... Let's see, I just kind of start at the edge and I make as many as I possibly can using whatever cookie cutter type device that I have. Blueberry. All right, I'm gonna get a plate. Ta-da! So see, they kind of look like little scones or like the top of a muffin bite. And once they cool, they definitely have more of a scone type texture. They're just a little bit more dense, which I really like because it's more filling. There's more chewing going on. But this would be your serving. You could definitely have even 2 or 3 as a full meal. I like to have these alongside some scrambled eggs or yogurt, or sometimes honestly I'll serve this with cereal. If we got to get out the door and cereal is our option, I have a low sugar cereal, but I also want some protein, some extra fiber with that, so I might have this on the side. This is also a great option to pack in your lunchbox. I might have this alongside my salad today to have something with a little bit more kind of zhuzh, to give me that satisfaction after having a salad. Or it can be a snack too, because we've got some protein going on here. So let me show you this dish here of how much is left. So I made that little hole right there. So I would just go around and I would cut them all out. And then all the outsides, eat that too. Maybe you're just the one that eats that instead of serving that to your family because they're like, what is this little bit of a side? But it's all good. You could just have some little bits on the side of your salad and that would be great too. So hopefully this gave you some ideas and you take them and run with them and make them your own. Let me see if there's any other questions before I say goodbye. Making me hungry. Me too. I have lunch, fortunately, as soon as I click off. I tried your baked tofu with the Trader Joe's high protein tofu and it was very good. Tasted better the next day. Awesome. That was a previous dish from a previous recording. So definitely go back through our recordings and check them out and see if there's other recipes that look good because we do these all the time and you can get lots of great ideas. So I'm so glad that turned out really well. In case you're wondering about that message, the high protein tofu from Trader Joe's is nice because there isn't a lot of water packed in. So it's a lot easier to cook with that one because it's just already nice and dense and hard. Awesome. All right, everyone. Thank you for joining me. Hopefully you have something to go eat right now. I wish you were all here so we could just eat some of these yummy scones together. But like I said, just prep what you can to help yourself out a couple of days from now. So thank you so much. I'll send out the recording and the recipes as soon as I can. It might be tomorrow, and we'll see you at the next session. Bye, everyone.